Hey there, and welcome to Learning Laser with Jason. If you saw my last video, I had I was putting circuit boards with a laser cutter, which I just got. I don't know anything about laser cutters really. I managed to wrangle that one. And if you're just starting out with lasers or wondering how they all work, maybe this video series will help you out. My other projects sort of waiting for bits and pieces, so I'm just going to get on with this sort of quick tutorial. So this video we're making a vector image to print out. Now, a bit like normal printers, you have rastered images and vector images. With the circuit board thing I did, there was a raster image, so what's going to happen is the laser head's going to go back and forward like it does on an inkjet printer and print every single pixel across the page. Super inefficient way of doing it because it was 10 lines per millimeter, so this thing, the laser's going back and forward 10 times just to do 1 millimeter. Of course, anything huge it takes forever to do, but with the vector images it's basically just drawing a line around the whole thing super quick. If we're going to do that vector, probably wouldn't work and it'd be a bit of a nightmare. So I'm just going to make a vector file. You could easily just go on the internet and buy like a package of 10,000 vector files and just print them off. Somebody else's design, but if you wanted to make your own thing to cut out, it would be a bit unique. It's not the best way to do it, right? Because you can't be, because you've got the same STLs or SVGs that everybody else has got. So we're going to be using Fusion today to create our own little drawing thing. We're going to send it down to the printer or the laser cutter and just to see what that looks like. It's sort of a bit of a step by step. Might take a little while, so if you're waiting for the sim card stuff, you'll be bored with this one. But if you want to learn how to get up and running, making your own things in Fusion for the laser cutter, we'll get into it. So we're here in Fusion, and with this laser cutter thing, I think everything is going to start as a sketch. And there's our sort of our 3D world if you've never seen Fusion before. It's the sort of looking down from the top of our 3D object. If I was going to grab a sphere or something, and I plonked it here, drew it out. There it is, looking from the top around and everywhere. But we're going to, because we're doing a SVG, we're going to just do it and using a sketch object. So I'll just delete this one. I'm going to click on sketch, and then the plane we want to go on. Doesn't really matter for us really, but we'll just choose this one here. And what I'm going to do is, you would have seen it in the thumbnail, I'm going to create a name stand. So when I'm in here, if I type on S, it gives me shortcuts. So I want to put in text. Type in text, draw what I want the text to be, and just type in my text. This will be a name. I'll just call it Cade for now. And that font's pretty boring. And the other thing is, if I were to burn this off now, I'd have 4 different things. I want them all sort of joined together, so I want a sort of a font which is like a bit of a script font. It looks cool. When we look at it, we can see it's all sort of joined together. There, it's very thin joined there, but we'll see what we can do with it. We'll stick with that. It's all joined together in one solid piece, and we just click on OK, and it creates the text. So the text at the moment we can't do anything with, so we just have to click on explode text, and it creates the outline. So this is what it's going to burn when we put it to the burner. We need a little stand down the bottom here for it to put it into the stand itself. So what I'll do is I'll click on each of these objects now, and when I push on E for extrude, I can extrude it out. Now my wood, I know, is 4.75 millimeters thick, so I really want to make this the same size so I can see what it's going to look like. So I put in 4.75. And there's our word. So it's going to be super tiny. I don't really measure it. $30mm. I probably want it about 50mm. So I'll just scale it up. And I don't want to scale it all up, because if I scale it all up, the thickness will also increase. So I don't want to scale up in the Z and Y axis. If I click on the body again, and click on S and scale. I can scale it either all at the same time, or I can scale it just in a couple of directions. So we want to scale it this way. Nope, it's the one way we don't want to do it, so we'll leave it as 1, take this up to 2, this up to 2. So it's kind of twice the size now, still want it a bit bigger I think. It's starting to look about right. What do we measure it at? 80 millimeters. Bigger than I hoped, but it doesn't matter, we'll just do it anyway. And then down the bottom of this C, we're going to have it go into a base for it to hold on to. So I'll just be lazy here and just create a box. And we'll make it 5 millimeters wide. It doesn't really matter how wide we make it because we're cutting out the shape. But we've got 2 different bodies here. So if we were to try and export this now, it would be 2 separate objects, which isn't much use to us. So we're just going to join them together. So we go modify, combine. And with the option, that's our target body, and our tool body is what we're going to add to it. And there we go. So that's our little sign. So we're just going to create the base. So we go up and create a box, put it on the bottom, so we'll just align it this way. So now we want to just drop our text down into our little base here. And just grab the tool again and just move it down to where I want it to be. I mean, you can go and measure it all out if you like, but we're just knocking something up today. It looks pretty good. And we do want this base bit to align with here. Make sure it's a bit smaller. Might fit it down like that. So it looks pretty good. I'm not sure how long this is going to last without a little bit holding it on, but it seems pretty tough wood. Just to make it a bit nicer, we'll just round off these corners. Fill it, make it about 10 mil. Looks alright. So we also need a hole in our base. We'll just use this combine tool again so we get it in the exact position how we want it. And we want to keep the tool, so if I delete this now, it's going to delete the decayed as well. So if I just hide this for now, we've got our hole. It doesn't go all the way through, so I can just grab on that, extract. Cut out the bottom. So there's our a little sign, and we can go through and change the appearance of it so it looks like more like what I'm making the object out of. So the end result should look pretty similar to that. It's not quite centre, but we're not too worried about that. Now if we're going to print this to a 3D printer, we'll just export it now as an STL and print it. That would be full of supports because the text is floating in midair, right? But we're going to print it, so we need to create SVGs, which is what our laser printer understands. Or we could say it as a bitmap, but it'll be horrible as well. It probably wouldn't really work too good. So I don't think you can save this as an SVG in Fusion. We'll just have a look. Now, if I've only got DXF there, and you've got to pay for it. And this is the free version because I don't make any money out of this. So what we'll do is there's a plugin which you can get for free from the plugins store on this software. It's called Export Origin. And what this does is you click on a face and it exports that face as an SVG. So I click on this one here and I go OK. I can just save it locally. And I want to do the same for the base. So now we've got these SVGs, which are just kind of outlines of all this. We want to go into Inkscape and prepare the files for sending down to the laser cutter. So Inkscape is a free open source vector editor, so we can go and open those files up. And as you can see, it's completely full with black, which is not what we want at all because it'll give us ashes. So we want to click on that, and choose this fill and stroke tool up here, and we want to remove the fill. And now we've got nothing, but we want to put the stroke in and change it to black. And it's got this big black border in there, and that's because of the stroke style. So we change the stroke style. It says it's 10mm. We only want that 1mm. We'll change this to the same. It doesn't really matter, I don't think, for this. It'll just follow or whatever. So that's our base already and prepared for cutting. And here's our text as well. So we've got to go through and do the same thing. We don't want any fill. So if I send it down now, it'll just print the decayed part, not the entire thing. We want it to print the entire, both things at the same time. I mean, you can print them one at a time if you want, but this makes sense to print them both at once. So we're down the bottom here, we've just got a little page icon, and when I click on this little squares, I'm going to extend out the size of the page. And I jump back into my other screen. Let's do a Control All and a copy. Go back into CAD, Control V, and I want to rotate that. We just need to make our page a little bit bigger. So when I send this down to my laser cutter now, down here on the bottom left is going to be the home point, or 00 for my laser cutter. So if I had this right at the top of the page, it'd be this big white area, so the laser cutter would move all the way up there, but we don't want to do that, so we're just going to leave it down here on the bottom so it doesn't travel all the way across and make a mess. And then I just save this as CAD sign. Okay, so we created our sign in fusion360. We exported that as SVG. We'll put this into Inkscape. We probably could have just opened these SVGs, each individual one, straight into the burning software, but I just like to tile it up like this so it does it all at once. You could probably avoid Inkscape altogether if you want, but it's free and it's probably good to learn using that software, right? So once we've got our file, I'm going to use Laser GRBL to print it out. So I've got this old bit of wood I've just got kicking around the workshop. I think I just used the spray panel to be honest, just a scrap piece of wood. I put it into the laser and I use this little jig which came with the machine, which sets the right focus height for engraving or cutting. I want to cut, so I'll just drop it down right down to the bottom. To burn my file, go into Laser GRBL, File, Open File. Just grab the file that I've been working with and open it, and in here it has the settings. We have S-Max, which is the max power, and over here it's got like a little book, and for me it is quite good because it's got a very similar model and it's got like a catalogue of materials. So I'm using MDF, 100% power, 160mm a minute. The thickness is close enough to 5mm, and click on apply and create, and it's got my file there, and it's going to burn this down based on the outline I've created there. So I put my material in, and just to make life a bit easier, just to make sure I've got the right amount of material, there's a frame button here, and I can click on, when I click on the frame button, it will it'll just go around the border of where it's going to burn. So now if I'm like go out of the material I've got, it's too small, so I'll just click on that now and see what happens. So it's all framed out now, and we can see it's not going to go outside the edges of the bit of what I've got there. So next step we've got to do is just fire it off for printing, and that's just this play button up in the top corner here. So when I click on play, it'll start burning. Ideally we want to keep an eye on what's going on. We don't want to leave this machine to its own devices. It's basically a fire making machine, and we don't want to look at it as well because the laser is going to hurt your eyes. So all I've done is I've hooked up, I've got the 3D printer running off Clipper, and it's got a webcam, so I just swap the webcam between the 3D printer and the laser engraver for whatever I'm doing at the time. So here's a quick preview of what's going on, and that way I can look at the printer wherever it is in the world and make sure it's not catching the shed on fire. So let's jump in and click on play and let it do its thing. I'm going to turn the fan on because it stinks. So it's pretty much falling out. I can't imagine this a little bit here lasting too long with kids. Oh, here we go. Looks pretty cool. Job done. Okay, so that's it for this first lesson of learning laser. I'll be doing a few more as I pick up things along the way. So if you're interested in laser stuff, or just getting to lasers yourself, by all means subscribe. Otherwise, thanks for watching.